So the day did not go as expected. Went snowboarding, me and my girlfriend, and we were doing the lesson, and I ended up like this. Look at that. Just beautiful. So many things were learned today. Number one, I think I might be a little better at skiing because we tried skiing the other day and actually did pretty okay. This was not good. I was like so confident that I would do fine. Here we are. I like trying new stuff. It can be a little uncomfortable, but I was like, oh, it'll be fun. But that was something else. It's hard because I'm in like a really bad mood today and I'm trying to get it together, but like sometimes looking back at my life and like the things that happened, it's like there's a strong sense of regret for like the way I respond to things, the way things happen, and then I'm like, well, it can't be regret because it's I guess how it turned out, but it's just I'm like kind of just tired of, I don't know. I guess I always feel like I'm already hard on myself, and I'm really hard on myself sometimes. And so when someone else is hard on me, it just like doubles it down. And I think about all the things I can improve. I think about all the things that like I need to do. But I say all that to say that progress isn't linear. And I've thought about this a lot before I finished recording this video. I realized that making progress in some things is possible. Making progress in everything at once is also possible, but we can't be too hard on ourselves because when you make progress, sometimes you focus more on something else than another thing. And I even spent my time drawing up an example. But if we look at the little progress drawing I made there, look at that. If you are making progress, there's some places where you may make a lot and it might branch off into making progress in other things. And then there's some places where there might end up being I did like a tree branch type thing. Like you see a leaf and there's like a little branch and a little branch, and that's where it may stop. And you think, like at this branch, it stopped. And you're like, well, I haven't made any progress in that because I've been focused on this branch. But I want us to kind of think a little more positively. When you grow more on something and it turns into the leaf, I think that's a point where it's flourishing and you can kind of leave it alone and not have to make more progress in it. And if something else stems off of that, it's awesome. But I think there's points where we have to look at the things that are like our little branches that broke off and kind of stopped and figure out what we can do to make that flourish. Whether it turns into a leaf or it turns into a longer branch, but where you make more progress, because progress isn't linear. We have more than just one thing that we're good at or focus on. And if you make progress in work, you may not make as much progress in relationships. You may not make as much progress in hobbies, but you're making some. Whereas if you're actually working on those things, whereas you can try and have a well-rounded progress wheel, but something is going to get forgotten. And I think that's something that I've learned today. And for the sake of transparency and vulnerability, I think about it and like I've made a lot of progress in a lot of areas of my life in the last 2 years, especially in the last year. And I've grown a lot. But at the same time, where I've grown a lot, I haven't grown as much. And there are places like, being more active on social media, which is something that I wanted to grow in because it pertains so heavily to one of my biggest passions, which is music and videos. So I grew in that. I grew in mental health and actually paying attention to my mental health. I've grown in relationships. I've grown in work. But at the same time, there are things I have to work on. I can be defensive. I can be, against criticism. And there are a lot of things that I know that I could do better. And just because I made heavy amounts of progress in mental health and taking care of that and going to therapy and stuff, doesn't mean that I've made a lot of progress in those flaws. I've made some, but not enough. And I think there's other things as well. I think that we tend to be hard on ourselves when we don't make the progress that we think, but just recognize the spaces where you've made a lot of progress and applaud that, and see what that tree branch is, or that stem that grew heavily and is the base of your tree. Be proud you got that promotion at work. Be proud you have 1 million streams on Spotify. Be proud at this. Be proud at having people find your art and selling your first piece of artwork. Be proud that you're looking into your mental health. But then also look for the ones that aren't flourishing as much and figure out why. That's what I'm going to be spending my time working on, and that's what I'm spending my time on right now, is trying to find the branches that stopped growing or that I've forgotten about. And just because they've died off and crumbled now doesn't mean that you can't grow them back and work on it. And it might be slow at first, but it will catch on. Not all of it grows at once into a huge tree. It starts off as a trunk and it's in a few branches and some stems, and it goes from there. So progress isn't linear. And I want you to think about what you can work on. I'll see you tomorrow.